Welcome back to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I'm going to talk about the game Dead Static Drive. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. You might also hit the like button too. We have memberships now as well, so if you want to get early access to videos and see a bunch of other cool stuff, please consider hitting the join button or even throwing out a super thanks. Anyway, let's dive right into the content. Dead Static Drive just came out as of the 4th of November. I'm filming this on the 5th, and it is a top-down sort of survival horror driving game. It throws back to things like the original Grand Theft Auto games, and it has a lot in common with some other titles as well. I get the sense of things like Zombie Driver and Dredge and stuff like that. So it even has a little bit of State of Decay in there. Just that's just a feeling I get. It may not necessarily be entirely fair. It's set in the 1980s. It's supposed to be a sort of retro Americana, and that's what the graphics really kind of bring to life. And I think that you're going to see that in the different trailers and some gameplay videos as well. It's pretty obvious and it's kind of cool. So it kind of is this idea that you're taking a road trip, but you're also attempting to figure out if your family is in trouble. They've sent you a message that says they need some help. And as you go along the way, you sort of discover that the apocalypse may be happening and you might be able to stop it. So you've got to do all kinds of stuff, keep your vehicle refueled, get gear and find items and help people out their quests. It's actually pretty extensive, and to be fair, it has a lot of content in that regard. But let's start talking about the history of the game. So this was made by basically one person started it way back in 2014, and within a few months they were able to get a grant from is some kind of Unreal developer grant. It's like 15 grand is what I think I saw. And then later on, they received some funding from their government, the Australian government in this case, which allowed them to quit and focus full-time on the game. They were able to hire some people to help them make it have this look, the music and all that good stuff. So there's quite a few things here that this person was able to do. Now, the trick is that obviously it took 10 freaking years to make this game. In October, I guess they announced that they would be launching the game on November 5th. Now, I'm not entirely sure why they did that. And the reason that I say that will come up later. But it seems to me that they probably should have just kept working. We'll get to that. But that's basically where Dead Static Drive came from. And the person was hoping to kind of create this Grand Theft Cthulhu. There's some Evil Dead inspiration. You know, some of the stuff the character says. I mean, when you pick something up, the character's like groovy. Ultimately, you are looking at a game that is pretty much trying to give you that feel from those older films back in the day. And I think that part is definitely it's definitely there. Anyway, so now let's move on to game stuff. I'm going to talk about character creation. There's a whole bunch of archetypes you could pick. There's a mechanic, there's a librarian, there is like an aerobics instructor, and they all have different stats. Stuff like fighting and driving and mechanic. I started out with the mechanic character. There's basically a stockbroker character as well that has no skills. They're just basically a leech, which really speaks to what the developers think of people like that. It was actually kind of funny. I guess that's just hard mode playing. I don't know. But yeah, so when you pick one of the characters, there are some aesthetic choices you can make. You can choose if they're male or female. You can change what they're like, if they've got glasses or a beard or any of this kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of customization, and then you'll dive into the game. I've already talked a little bit about the aesthetics and atmosphere, but when you log in, there is just a really cool nostalgic feel to the game. And I have to admit, I thought it was pretty charming. I think that when you're running around, it really does scream State of Decay top-down view. I love State of Decay. I think it's super fun. And this game sort of has that same feel. I mean, you're running around with a crowbar, whacking boards and stuff and opening windows. And I don't know. It really did call that into my mind. So I don't think that's where this game suffers. There you'll see monsters. They're pretty cool looking. They have like voice bubbles that pop above their head, and it's weird characters. I think that the game thrives in its look and feel. I think that's probably where they did the best work. Unfortunately, and this is where we're going to move into the next part, this game has some bugs. In fact, the very first thing that happened to me was I log into the game, I make my character, I get into the very first location. You're in this hotel. You basically got to find your keys in your wallet. And I went and I found them, but nothing happened. And you can highlight stuff in the room. So like you can highlight the lamps, but you can't interact with them. You can highlight the TV and can't interact with it. You can jump on it though. That's something that you can do on pretty much anything, and it's pretty annoying. You can go and pee if you want to, but I could not get it to advance. So I thought I must be missing something. And your character does complain, hey, I thought I had $20. So I thought, man, do I have to search this place for a $20 bill or something? And I watched a video of the beginning of the game, and the person grabbed those two things and a trigger happened and they were able to proceed with the game. So I suffered a bug. I wasted 15 minutes trying to figure it out, but it turned out that the trigger just didn't happen and I had to start over from scratch. Now, of course, I'm sure you've already thought of the number one problem with that is that if it happened that early on in the game, what if it happens later? And that's a fantastic concern. I'm not sure how bad that would be, or if it does have issues later on in the game. I didn't experience any other noticeable bugs. I don't know if I missed anything. I may have. I don't know. It is something to worry about, or at least think about before you start playing. They've talked about a day one patch, and that would be very good because there's other really weird and small things. Here's a great example. Once you start playing the game and you have the continue game button, the quit game button is gone. I double checked this by looking at my recording, and I did have a quit game button before I started. Once I started, it was gone because it basically got shoved to the bottom of the screen, which is strange because I'm playing in 4K. There's plenty of real estate. They could have just moved the menu up. They did not. Another strange thing is there's no key binding, so you pretty much are stuck with whatever they give you. That's not too bad. However, when I started playing the game, I was thrown back in a not so pleasant way to the Commodore 64 days, where instructions were a little light. I mean, at least you had a book, but sometimes they didn't explain everything, so you'd like get your character to a safe place and then literally hit every key on the keyboard to see what they did and write it down as you went and made your own instructions. I ended up doing that on this game, and that was a little ridiculous. But I can tell you a few things because of that. The 1 and the 3 key rotate the screen. The backspace key brings up a compass that can actually guide you in the direction you need to go. Other than that, you open things with the E and the F. I guess I should say you interact with things. You move normally, WASD. The left mouse button attacks. The right mouse button seems to focus you. So if you're holding a gun, you'll aim it. If you're not holding a gun, your character will like not turn even though you're moving around. So that was interesting. By and large, it's pretty simple, but it would have been nice to be able to look at the keybinds so at least you knew what was happening. That didn't happen. Now, I will also say this though. The game is very obviously made for a controller. I mean, it's on Xbox Game Pass, and I suspect that if you played it with an Xbox controller, it'd be easier. I didn't plug mine in. I was too lazy. I just wanted to play it with my mouse and keyboard. So if you do try it and the controller is easier, please let me know. I'd like to just have that in the back of my mind. Some other strange things about the game. It's hard to know what to do with your equipment. For example, your character will be carrying a bag, and people have complained, hey, what do I do with this thing? Can I drop it? You can. It's not that big of a deal. You can swap things out and it'll go in your inventory. You can actually carry quite a few. And the funny thing is you only actually look like you're holding one in your hand. It's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Another thing is you can put things in the trunk of your car, but I'm going to caution you about that because I trashed the car by running down a whole bunch of monsters and brought the car's hit points to 0. And everything in my trunk got destroyed as a result. Also, you lose all your gas. That's just something you might want to no, because it's kind of a pain to find more. So there are those things. Those aren't obviously bugs, but those are something you probably want to know about. You could steal cars. You could even buy cars later. They're kind of expensive. $2,000 for one. I think $4,000 for another. Obviously, if you're doing quests and stuff, you'll probably find more ways to make money or loot it along the way. There's lots of little places that you could explore, but I didn't really see a whole lot of reason to do it, which, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that per se. You know, you're wandering around in some of these places and it's kind of like, what is the even point of this building? But, you know, does every single place in a game need to have a purpose like that? Sometimes you're going to go in a place that'll be empty. It's just that I wanted things. So, you know, obviously I was an entitled baby there. It's interesting that you're going on this road trip to find your family. You got a map, and when you go between the different towns, it'll sort of go into I don't necessarily want to call it a montage. It's not really even a cinematic because you could still kind of control the car. And if you've got someone with you, you can like have a conversation. But otherwise, you just drive on. Early on, you do meet somebody who you can basically drive around with, and it's a waitress. Now, this is actually kind of funny. For whatever reason, I'm driving by the place, and it's scripted. The car breaks down. I'm playing the mechanic. I hop out. My character's like, this is beyond my skill to fix. So I'm walking away. I'm going to go look around to see what to do. The waitress comes out and says, hey, you having car trouble? Let me take a look. Waitress comes over, and your character's like, yeah, I'm not very good with engines. I'm like, well, what was the point of playing the mechanic? Anyway, she fixed the car for me, and then we moved on, and I had to drive her home. And just a slightly funny thing, I went the wrong way, took her back to the original town, and she didn't have anything to say about it. And we drove back and finally got around to her place, I think 3 or 4 hours after I picked her up. And she's like, wow, we're making good time. I'm like, okay, if you say so. The conversation they had on the drive as well was completely unhinged. Like I don't know what happened there. I don't know who wrote it or what they were talking about. I actually got a little bit confused about their conversation because it just seemed a little bit too insane. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. All around, I think the game it's enjoyable, but there are a lot of problems. You know, the combat it's okay. I was shooting the monsters. It didn't seem to take too much. I didn't have reloads for the pistol. But, you know, that is what it is. I found a big rifle. I couldn't figure out how to equip it. There's just little things where you're like, I don't even know what's going on. Here's a great example of the game being a little odd. Obviously, you have to worry about gas. It's a driving game, and it's a road trip. So you get gas cans, and you could use those to refill. But when they're empty, you need to find a gas station. Now, the cool thing is you just grab the pump, you go over there, and you're about to refill. But it's not as easy as like in Days Gone where you just do it and you're done. In this, you hold down the button, it goes to your inventory and says select what you want to refill, and then you select the pump, and then your character does it. It's kind of annoying because, I mean, that's just an unnecessary step. Now, here's the funny part. You'll still be carrying around the empty gas cans. They're flashing red, but you can't refill them. I looked it up online. So one guy says, I still don't know if you can do it. I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I tried, but it didn't work out. If anyone knows that one way or another, if you've made it happen, let me know. I'd love to have that piece of information in the back of my head too. But all that said, that's kind of where this game is at. It's a little clunky. It's got some quirks. And then it's got the tons of bugs. And if you go on and look at the reviews, you'll see that there are a lot of complaints about that. And it's not just on Steam. It's on the Xbox Game Pass app as well. People complaining about it pretty hard. All around, it's really heartbreaking, honestly, that someone put 10 years in on this only to release it in a state that has garnered so much negative attention. And it's really frustrating. I mean, there is something here. And I think that it could be amazing. It could be another Dredge. And, you know, if you know anything about Dredge, it did fantastic. And it is just an amazing game. It's a game that I pretty much couldn't put down for 2 days, and I finished everything, all the expansions, every aspect of it. I just loved it, and the ending just chilled me. And I really feel like this game could be very similar to that if it had been allowed to cook a little bit more, or with their patches. They have promised to put out some patches. They've got a big one coming to fix a lot of the complaints that are going on. I hope that they add a few things. I mean, I don't mind a game that doesn't hold your hand too much, but there are pieces of information that would have been nice to know. Like, for example, if you put stuff in your trunk and the car gets destroyed, that everything in the trunk is destroyed as well. That would have been good. Just the sense of triggering, like telling you what a trigger does. And when I say trigger, like letting you know that things should be advancing, that would have been nice. But I mean, it let me hang for the 15 minutes that I was stuck because of the bug. Don't highlight things. I guess that's where I'm coming from, is like, don't highlight the lamp if I can't interact with it. Don't highlight the door or the window if I can't do anything to it. I'm just hopeful that when they do their patching, that they'll fix some of that stuff, and that it will, finally be the game that it deserves to be. Because again, I think that the person who made this came at it with a lot of love, and they really wanted to make something super cool. Now, get this too. I did see them say straight up, hey, we are not doing a malicious release. We don't want people to be miserable. Let's figure it out. And I believe them. Now, I have to address the price. They want $29.99 for this game. And considering that for like $10 more, you could get Arc Raiders, which is this pretty hefty, I would even call it a AAA title, compared to this for just $10 more. I don't know. It's a hard sell. I've seen a lot of people who said this game should probably be 15, maybe 19 bucks. $30 does feel like a lot of money for what you're getting here as far as the look and feel. I think they probably would have done a little bit better with the reviews and with expectations had they lowered the price a little bit more. I think people would have been a little bit less harsh to it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, bugs are bugs. It doesn't matter how much you spend. People are going to trash that. But it does seem like a whole lot of money for something that, technically speaking, it needed to cook for another several months, maybe even another year. I don't know. There's enough here that they could have done that I could see it taking a while to get it all done. But I don't know. I just think I got it on Xbox Game Pass, so I didn't pay anything, and I'm pretty, let's just say I could excuse a lot when I don't have to pay extra beyond my subscription. But if you spent $30, I could see a lot of people refunding this pretty fast, which is a shame. Again, I think it's heartbreaking. This guy really worked hard on this game, spent a lot of time on it, quit his job to focus on it, and then only to come out and have a game that basically has mostly negative reviews on Steam. That's just rough, and it sucks. But anyway, that's Dead Static Drive. I guess the last thing I can tell you is I would not recommend picking it up until they do their patch and we see what things they address. Because if I experienced a bug right off the bat that was literally game-breaking, then I will have to assume that there may be more game-breaking bugs later. And they've got to find those before you get too far, because there's not like manual saves or anything. It's not like you're going to be able to go back. Your save is going to be corrupt and messed up. And based on the kinds of bugs I've seen so far, I just don't have a lot of faith that they would create a patch that will also fix your game save. So I'd give it some time. As cool as this looks and as nice as the atmosphere is, they need to fix the problems before I recommend trying it. Even if you have Game Pass, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you install it until they fix some of this stuff. And once they do, and they tell us what they fixed, and we know that we're not going to be wasting our time, then absolutely give it a shot, and you might have a lot of fun. But anyway, that's just my opinion. I just want to thank you very much for stopping by. If you've played the game, let me know. If you're excited about it, let me know. Leave a comment about your general experience with this kind of game. What do you think? Anyway, this is Robert with Society Case Files, signing off.